Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello, welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. Mikey, Stafford here. Apologies for my voice. I don't know what's up with it. Jackie Tyrrell reckons I was cheering too much for Kilkenny, which is an outrageous slur. Jackie's here with us, as well as Rory, obviously, and we have Christy O'Connor on. First off, Christy, apologies to you. I wanted to get you on, and I didn't really think about the fact you'd be on with a smug Kilkenny man, so apologies for that straight out of the gate.
Don't panic at all. Like, you have to put up with certain stuff, you know.
Yeah, I know. He's not the worst of them, though, in fairness to him.
No, he's okay. He's not too bad, yeah.
But, you know, that's a bit of a tallest dwarf contest, Jackie, isn't it? No, I'm only joking. I'm very happy for Kilkenny and Brian Cody. It's been a long old wait to get back to an All-Ireland final. What is it, 3 years? Jesus, it was a barren spell. Anyway, we'll get on to Kilkenny and Clare in a bit. I think we'll have to start with yesterday's epic. And geez, we use the word epic and classic to discuss hurling matches a lot, but it's hard to get away from it. Like, they were level 10, 11 times, never more than a point in it until the last couple of minutes of that second half. Christy, I know you were there, and I think as impressed as we all were with Limerick and how they kind of dug it out, looking ahead to an All-Ireland final in 2 weeks, Kilkenny would have to be looking at Galway's kind of, shot conversion rate of about 50% and saying, well, if we improve on that, this Limerick team are giving away chances, aren't they?
Yeah, it was like 46 shots, 48%, Mikey. But from a Galway perspective, and I think from everybody even looking on, that there's definitely signs that Limerick were almost there for the taking, 15 to go. Like, there was a few unforced errors and mistakes that you normally wouldn't see. But look, it's just a sign of the great team they are, that they could find a way to win the game. And just, a lot of their big guns, like that their starting forwards taking off. When have you seen that before? Like, even James Flanagan, incredible in the Munster final. But he fought 6 possessions, 5 possessions, 3 shots, 2 scores. But just, I suppose, to do it in that manner is probably even more satisfying again. But I look at their defence was incredible. Like, Sean Finn was unbelievable again. Barry Nash, like Declan Hannon, super stuff. David Reedy coming on, 6 possessions, 3 shots and assists. In fairness to Reedy, Barry Cleary's had that stat, in the Examiner recently, where he's just one of these assist machines where he comes in, they bring him in after 55 minutes, kind of almost drives him over the line. He's at something like 8 or 9 shot involvements when he's on the pitch, but he, Dale at that point as well, and he's calling this morning that he's a class player. He's very, very comfortable shooting, good free taker, very skillful. You'd be comfortable seeing him in front of the post, later on. So yeah, look at I still think they're creaking a bit. Clare rattled them twice. I just felt yesterday with Galway, you can't. You're just not going to get away, Mikey, with that amount of wides and that amount of missed chances. Against Limerick, you went to double digits, you're in trouble. You go to 19, you're serious trouble. And 48% against 62, there's only going to be one winner there. But look at fair play to Limerick. They're on the cusp of 3 in a row now. But look at, they're coming up against the one crowd that will absolutely relish this stuff.
Big time.
From a Kilkenny perspective as well, you have to say that Cody's team of the 2000s are the greatest team of all time, no question about it. And Limerick are in that conversation now. Okay, that great Kilkenny team won 4, Jackie's team nearly won 5, won 6 in 7 years. Limerick have they're going for 3 or 4 in 5 years, going for 3 in a row. And make no mistake about it, Kilkenny don't want to see that happening. As well as, Cody never needs any motivation to win the All-Ireland every year. But to kind of almost protect almost the legacy of the guys that inspire these players. And look at TJ and some of these lads played with Jackie and all those lads. They really, really want to put a stop to this Limerick machine. So look, it's going to be a fascinating final. And if Kilkenny play as well as they played last Saturday, Mikey, it's going to take a serious Limerick performance to beat them.
Absolutely. To stick with the Kilkenny team, Jackie, your old mucker, Henry Shefflin, he'll be pulling his hair out this morning, I would imagine, because he'll be so proud of his team and like the way they battled and the way they defended and the way they came back from a shocking start. He'll know that the raw materials is there to win in All Ireland, but again he'll be coming back to just the amount of wides, the amount of chances they missed, and it'll be driving him insane, I'd imagine.
It will, Mikey, because it was there for them, and the amount of work that they had to do, first of all, to get to an All-Ireland semi-final, but to have Limerick on the racks coming down the straight. I mean, they had a terrible start, 6-1 down, looked like they were in serious trouble at the back, but somehow their leaders just settled it down. I thought Padraig Mannion in the first half in particular was outstanding. Cotton Mannion came to the fore. Tom Monaghan was brilliant. Daithí Burke started to get on top of the back, and they just slowly clawed their way back in. So they're serious character there, there's serious resilience, but the wide count is just the killer. And even you think back at Conor Cooney had a free in the first half, a simple enough routine free that he just missed. They're the ones that will really irk them. And look, in his first year building, and you'd like to think they have a huge foundation to build, but there's no guarantee they'll get back there again. There's no guarantee they'll get another shot at Limerick and have them on the racks. And as Christy said, we've seen unforced errors out of Limerick that we've never seen, missing rises, coughing up possession when they just never do. 4 of their starting forwards taken off, and particularly the 2 half forwards, which we've never really seen both being taken off. And Shane Flanagan, after 10 minutes, didn't really have a huge influence on the game. So they had him in a corner. But like all great teams, someone else steps up. It was Aaron Gillane yesterday with 6 points. It was Kyle Hayes with those crucial 2 scores at that period. But I think yesterday was a tip of the hat to the backs. I thought they were absolutely outstanding. I thought Sean Finn had a performance for the age. Mike Casey was outstanding. Barry Nash got a point in the second half.
Some score.
Oh man. If anyone else gets that score, they're talking about, but sure, look, the cornerbacks, we never get the credit for it.
You never got credit for your scores, did you, Jackie?
Well, I hate about the same height as Barry, but it wouldn't be going over the bar. It's coming down on Larks or something, but I thought it was an amazing score at a key time as well. So it's there's a lot for Galway to be positive about, but you don't get too many chances with this Limerick team, and they had him in a position where they could have seen it out, and they didn't. And Henry said it in his interview after the match. When they went 1 point up, he just felt a couple of times they needed to go 2 up just to put a bit of daylight between them and keep the momentum. But Limerick just hung in there, kept breaking their momentum where they were building scores, and they're just an awesome team. And it probably, if you look as a team of 15, it probably was their, I won't say poorest performance. Their marquee guys, a lot of their guys just weren't at it yesterday, but still they find a way to win.
Yeah, Rory, on that point, you'd be watching it yesterday, and there was moments when like the short hand passing, and like the Limerick team have, as a group, taken on the brick flick as the alternative to a hand pass. It's becoming more and more obvious. At times it was very fluid, but for a lot, especially in the second half, you got the impression they weren't following a set plan, or they weren't trying to get a man free. They were just desperately trying to escape Galway players, and it all like. A lot of that kind of interplay around the middle looked very messy and kind of frantic, and like it broke down on occasion. And that's very interesting, because that hasn't happened to Limerick in the last 2.5 seasons. We haven't seen them, I suppose flustered would be the word for it, and like Galway just harried them all over the pitch.
Yeah, and I think huge credit to Galway, because we mentioned last week, I think Derek McGrath said that Galway will bring a performance and they will play well. Might not just be enough to win, and like that's kind of what happened. I think Galway can take an awful lot out of it, but I'd agree as well. I think Jackie's spot on. Like it will feel like an opportunity missed. I was looking as the play was unfolding second half. I think, again, I could stand to be open to correction here. I think they only got their second point from play in the 61st minute. Limerick didn't score for the first 10 minutes after half time, and that's such a crucial period in every match. They got no score at all. I mean, I was looking at the clock at one stage. The clock hit 45 minutes and Limerick were still on 16. And I turned around to the graphics person next to me and said, wasn't it 16-12 at half time? And so Limerick haven't scored. It was just very, I think Limerick were there for the taking, and they found a way. I 100% agree in that there were, and I mentioned this actually to Shane Dowling. I said, do you think Limerick are playing well? This was during a commercial break. I said, do you think Limerick are playing well here? Because there were passages of absolute classic Limerick where they moved the ball through the lines and they had that fluency of hand pass here, offload here, man in space, strike over the bar. But there was loads of different parts of it where it did break down. And I think Galway deserve an awful lot of credit on that in terms of the way they obviously got their matchups right. They made sure they went man to man all over the field. They gave no, they didn't really they actually gave up a few puck outs short. They seemed to be happy enough, particularly in the first half, and just kind of wait and but I think Galway will take a lot. I think Jackie's spot on. It will feel like an opportunity missed because there's no guarantee you'll get back there. But just massive credit to Limerick again. I mean, to find a way when all of your forwards really haven't hurled in with the same kind of fluency that we would normally associate with them, still rack up 27 points, by the way. Didn't really create a goal scoring opportunity, bar the shot from Garrod Hagerty at one stage, which was a good distance out, and again, a really good block. I think was it by Fintan Burke or maybe was it Grealish?
Jack Grealish.
It was Grealish, yeah. So, like, I mean, that would probably be a small bit of a worry in that, like, you know, you do need, like, it's not every day you're going to, like, I don't see Limerick scoring 27 points against Kilkenny, like, you know, so but at the same time, I think, look, ultimately they're in the final, and what an All-Ireland final we're going to have.
Mentioning the Limerick forwards, I think one does deserve mention, Christy, Aaron Gillan. I don't know if I've ever seen a more efficient corner forward. He very rarely wastes a possession. He very rarely takes any more than the touches he needs out of the ball. And like there was a super slow-mo, thanks for that one, Rory, of one of his points in the second half yesterday where he controlled it on the hurl while getting bursts across the thumb, and it just spun lovely into his hand, and he turned. He didn't look at the goalpost, and it was just straight over. And we're becoming used to him doing this, but he does it every time. He doesn't miss. Like, obviously he has the odd wide, but he's phenomenal. I'm just trying to think: is there anyone like who can live off, you know, fewer possessions than Aaron Gillan and still contribute 6 points from play?
Yeah, big time, Mikey. Like, was 10 possessions, like 10 shots. So some of those were free, 8 scores. But he's probably the ultimate example of, like, the pattern recognition that Limerick play to, like, you know, whereby, you know, like, everybody knows, like you know, Limerick are the most predictable team in the country. Like, everybody studies them to death. Everybody knows exactly what they're going to do, but, you know, trying to stop it is the big thing. Like, and, you know, the way they just, like, they triangle the ball out of midfield, out of the half back line, think it's short, you know, runners coming off the angle, and then it's literally that ball into Flanagan. It's like, if you even look at Flanagan's numbers last year, we say, on, like, you know, Cork is study that coming up to the final, where, you know, of the right side of the D, his conversion rate was something like 80%. It was like less on the other side. So they know where he wants the ball. Same with Gillan, just outside his shoulder, and just his economy, like, you know, one touch over his shoulder, bang. He's just unbelievable player, like. But yeah, like, he, like, that score that you're talking about, like, like, you know, I did make it easy for him, left a bit in, and you know, still, like, if you watch the ball, actually, when he touched the ball, you can see the ball in the slow-mo that's actually spinning up, which is, you know, real sign of a class touch. Like, that ball is obviously coming at, it's kicking off the turf, real pace, kills it, you know, into his hand and straight over, like, yeah, just, like, unbelievable economy. But, like, if you look at Flanagan in the Munster final, like, that stat for, you know, his 8 scores, like, he was in possession for 12.1 seconds, like, for the 8 shots, like, the 8 scores, just, like, off the chart stuff. Like, that's the modern game. Like, it's just, you know, like, it's the cornerbacks now that actually the guys that have the possessions, like Sean Finn had 18 possessions, Barry Nash had 16, I think, Mikey Casey had 17, 18. Like a lot of those are coming off the short puck. Now, I know they're not all coming off the short puck, but yesterday you could see Galway that clearly wanted to shut down Casey and Nash, Nash and Finn on the short puck, and they gave it to Mikey Casey. But you saw the way Limerick evolved, like, and the way they develop. And, like, Mikey Casey took some of those puck outs in the first half, nearly on the 45, and you know, it was one of those balls that he played, and the second ball was a score. Didn't get a whole lot more off it after that, like, but that's the one thing about Limerick, like, they're always looking to see, you know, where's the potential to exploit, or where's the potential that, you know, a team are giving up space or they're giving up opportunities, and that's exactly what they do. That's what Connacht will do for the final. You look at that game the last day, he'll see where they can attack Kilkenny. And you spoke about the lack of goals, Mikey, but like they hadn't scored goals coming into the final last year either, and they cut loose. Like I know some of the Cork defending was poor stuff, like, but they got 3 goals, could have had 4 or 5, so they'll find something, or they're going to have to find something. I think the big thing, like Jackie can maybe come in here on this, like I think the big thing from Kilkenny's perspective going into Saturday was like they had that 4-week break, and Kilkenny have always been comfortable with that time. They've always used it well. They were in a training camp, and like the 2-week break, like it does change it up. Like if you have any bit of a knock or any bit of an injury, like you really are struggling, and you don't really know, Mikey, until maybe not today or tomorrow how guys are, whether they can train, this week or because next week really you're only going to be winding it down. So, like I don't know, like what, like I just like to ask Jackie, like what would you do if you're Limerick now? Like do you take the foot off the gas this week? Do we let guys recharge? Like they know how this stuff works. They're going into a final again, the 4th in 5 years. Do you just take it down now and almost like do hardly anything in the next 2 weeks, or do you just go heavy Thursday, go heavy Sunday, and then wind it down? But I don't know. Like I think that's going to be a big one for Limerick, because there's no question that they are leaking a bit of gas. Like, and I think like if Galway were more clinical yesterday, like that game was, if Kilkenny were there yesterday, they'd have absolutely won that game, no question.
Yeah. What do you think, Jackie? Because also there's the kind of the puzzle of Peter Casey and Cian Lynch, who obviously weren't up to the speed of the game, and so they need something. But a lot of the lads probably need, as Christy says, little or nothing.
Yeah, Christy's right. It's a tricky one, 2 weeks, because next week you're not going to have any really huge, intense stuff. It's just going to be sharpening. It's just going to be focusing the mind. It's just going to head down. But this is the week that you're going to do it. So look, you have to assess, and it's a little different because, with all due respect, Kilkenny hadn't the toughest of games on Saturday. They have an extra day recovery. I see that their media night booked in for Wednesday night. So I'd say Kilkenny could go away for a few days, maybe the weekend, and have one really tough, intense session then, and then taper off for the following week. Limerick, like that was some epic battle yesterday. Like the physicality, the hits. I watched lads coming off that pitch yesterday. They were exhausted. They were on their knees. So John Kiely, you'll have to, this is where the S&C stuff comes in, and this is the stuff that Limerick generally get right. So do Kilkenny. But I would feel they will need some sort of a pitchy session. And I mean pitchy session. It could be short and snappy. And I know Kilkenny like to do it where they could have one session and it could be 3. It could be a game scenario. So it could be 3 sets of maybe 6 minutes in it. But by God, for those 6 minutes, you're in the red zone for the 6 minutes. And you can just get enough out of that to keep the temperature hot and give your guys enough to keep them at that level. Looking at Cian Lynch and Peter Casey yesterday, it's very hard to come into that. I know David really did, but he's kind of used to that mentality of coming in and hitting the ground running. I won't say they struggled. They didn't really have an influence on it. So I'd say John Kiely will be anxious to get them minutes this week. And I would say Limerick will definitely have maybe 1, maybe 2 really tough sessions, and then just take the foot off the gas next week. Just wrap your lads in cotton wool, because he's going to need Cian Lynch next week. He's going to need Peter Casey. And just listen to Christy. I just have it in my head. I don't know what it is, but anytime I look at Limerick and how they distribute the ball to their attack, and look, Christy's right, they're so predictable in what they do, but they just do it so well. But in my head, they always more or less have 2 definitely inside in the full forward line. But and I'd love to see the numbers on it, maybe it's just not, they seem to pepper the left side of that defence. The ball, like you think of Aaron Gillan, he nearly always scores from that corner of it, from, we say, the left cornerback position, whether it's in Hill 16, the majority of their scores, they wheel into that corner and they wheel around. I just think a cornerback, if you're marking someone, and I was watching Dahi Burke, and a lot of the time he started behind Aaron Gillan, and once he gets in front, it generally sticks. I think you need to take a chance. I think you need to start on the outside of him and just be touch tight, watching the ball and watching the play, and dart to that corner, because all you need is parity. All you need is beside him to just flick it away. But if you're a foot behind him, he's so good with that touch in front. And once he gets it in his hand, it's this lovely wheel motion and it's striking over his shoulder. And I just think that's the best way to go about this guy.
But isn't he great at catching the ball behind you as well then, Jackie? That's the problem.
That's Russian roulette, and that's where you would have a Richie Reid or your goalkeeper saying, look, I'm going to hedge on his left-hand side. So if they go high, I might need you. I might you know, and because the alternative is do what Cork did last year and just stay behind them, and for what parts of Daithí Burke did yesterday, I just think you're going to lose there. So it's All-Ireland final time. All the bets are off. If it's me and I'm left corner back, I'm talking to my full back and saying, lads, I'm going to hedge on the left. I'm going to go a couple of times. And maybe if you do that twice and get out in front and win that ball, maybe Declan Hannon and Dara Donovan will get that ball. They might be so quick to hit that ball into that corner going, lads, Aaron really isn't at it today. He's not out in front. I've never seen it being done, but I've seen the same predictable stuff of staying behind your man. And look, it's easy to say it, but like, I just think ask a different question. You know, stand out in front from a couple of yards. And if it is a hit it in high, well, look, you got to play that position as well, and maybe practice that this week.
Yeah.
On that, Jackie, I do think, sorry, Mikey, I do think like that's the one thing that does separate Limerick. Like, your in-game management, and I suppose this is where Kinnerk's real value comes in, like that, you know. And you can see what Limerick are doing, like, you know, like at one stage I saw, like, Kinnerk told Timmy Hoolan to come out and he said to give instruction to Sean Finn later on. You know, they'll use the doctor, they'll use the physio to get messages on. Like, you know, they spot this stuff, like that they're like, he's so clued in on that stuff, right? And you know, like if a guy is marking from the outside, like, you know, will they tell Flanagan to push over the far side? Will they try and open up that D bit more for Glenn and then get a runner coming off him? Like, it's just like but like Jackie's right, like that's the thing, like, you know, do you cut out that option, you know, which is maybe 4 or 5 points for Glenn potentially. You know, do you take a chance? Well, look, we'll see if we can hold out. Like, I suppose the one big advantage Kilkenny have here now, like, is Hugh Lawler's in the form of his life, Mikey Butler's in the form of his life.
Unbelievable.
Like, you know, and even like Lawler, the last imperious in the year, like, and look at the killer stat for the game on Saturday was Tony Kelly, Peter Duggan combined 7 possessions. Hugh Lawler, Mikey Butler combined 28 possessions. Like, just you know, off the chart stuff. Like, and like, but in fairness to the two lads, like, they've been excellent all year, even through the league. Like, you know, like Lawler when he was fit, Butler, they've been superb all year, the two of them. Like, so, like, Limerick aren't going to get it all the way in there now. Like, and that's where Kinnerk will you know, maybe Limerick can decide to run the ball a bit more. You know, maybe they'll just look to change it up a bit, because that's what they do. Like, they're predictable. They know exactly what they want to do, but they know they're going to have to do something different the next day, because they're going to be. Well, look at Daithí Burke is an unbelievable player, incredible player, but like Lawler, like, even you could see it in the Leinster final. Now I know the quality ball going into Conor Whelan was desperate stuff in the second half, but like, if there's any bit of a chance at all to spoil or to, you know, to break it down, like, you know, Conor Whelan's last shot in the Leinster final was the 44th minute. Now, I know a lot of that was down to the supply, but a lot of that was down to Hugh Lawler as well, just absolutely all over Whelan and just never getting him a chance to get into range.
Yeah. Christy, can I ask the question? And I'm very interested in it. Do you have the stats on Fintan Burke's possessions? Because I'd love to know, because I feel like he did an unbelievable job yesterday as a wing back. I feel like he didn't hit a whole lot of ball.
7 possessions, Jackie.
Many?
7.
7 stats for a half back. You're talking about cornerbacks having stats of 18. He did the ball 7 times yesterday. Garrod Hagley was taken off. I don't know, did he have a point or he had a shot for a point?
He had a point, yeah.
He had a point with 7 possessions, and Garrod Hagley, the hurler of the year, was taken off. And you have a cornerback there for Limerick with 18 possessions, you know. Like, I think that's amazing, like, you know, and he did, as I say, I watched him close. He was stuck in Haggerty. Absolutely buried in him. He didn't give him time to read. And in fairness, Haggerty won some good ball early on, but I just thought he did a marvellous job in 7 possessions.
Yeah.
Down for a half-back.
Yeah, about 12 possessions, 3 shots, 1 scoring.
Jesus. Yeah, no, that's incredible. Rory, I suppose...
It's just the way the game has gone, lads. It's, you know, like...
Yeah.
Sorry, Mikey.
No, you're right. Rory, I was just going to say, like, we're talking about the Limerick full forward line and what they'll do. Like, Graham Mulcahy is beloved by John Kiely and very hard working, but you would imagine if Peter Casey comes through the next couple of training sessions, he has to be considered to start, because in John Kiely's mind will be what he did in the last All-Ireland final before he blew out his knee. So there are options there, and
even David Reedy coming into the middle 8 gives him the option of maybe pushing Kyle further up, and you know. I'd like Kyle
very
Hayes.
unlikely to be the same six starting, you'd have to say.
Well, I think Christy's point not unreasonable there. Just giving Hugh Lawler, I was actually looking at, because I know the lads gave TJ Reid man of the match, and there was a few, but like Hugh Lawler, oh my god, I was curious because I started to go back. I went through all the games that Kilkenny have played this year. His man has been taken off in every match bar one. You know, and like he's up against, like, by and large, is nearly always the best player that he's marking. Yeah. He's an unbelievable fullback, and when you have that sort of solidity, you know, around your own square, it just gives the team such a brilliant platform and unbelievable confidence. But I think from a Limerick point of view, they have loads of options. I wouldn't be worried from their point of view about the form of Graham Mulcahy, and even if he does come back to a sort of an impact sub role, I still think he'll give them something if they need it.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. I think Graham Mulcahy is more suited to coming in the second half. And as I said, Peter Casey's kind of fish out of water territory for him. But we won't cry for John Kiely's decisions that he has to make in the next fortnight.
But you would wonder though at the same time, like the match sharpness that's going to be required. Like they have been out injured for a while. Even Cian Lynch himself, as great a player and all as he is, you know, like it takes a while, I'd say, to get up to the pitch of it, certainly at that level. And I'd be shocked if either of them started the final, but you never know.
Okay, it seems like we're kind of drifting towards talking about Kilkenny here, so let's get on to it, Jackie. And sorry, Christy, it was coming eventually. There weren't too many outside. Well, there were probably a few. Weren't too many outside Kilkenny, and people like me who suffer from Stockholm syndrome, Jackie, who actually thought Kilkenny were going to win this match. But then about 10 minutes into it, you kind of knew it was one of those days. Like, we know you pretty well now, Jackie. You're an awful nice fella. You're very sound. You're a polite, nice guy. But we all know what you were like on a hurling field. And this Kilkenny team are kind of, and that's a compliment. They've got to the kind of pitch of it for Brian Cuddy again now. These lads, this is kind of his third or fourth team. They've obviously been fed a diet of raw meat for the last couple of years, and they're there now.
Mikey, sure. Christy mentioned they went to play in a training camp. I'd say the training camp was Nolan Park. They
just slept on the pitch.
Nolan House.
But Jackie, my point is, you see it with this team now, what we saw with your team, this kind of, you know, you lose your hurl, doesn't matter, block the man with your head, this kind of, you know, Mikey Butler's ability to like just kind of snuff out Tony Kelly for 70 minutes and probably snuff out Tony Kelly's chance of being hurler of the year, and just like it was well analysed last night on the Sunday game. But from like 1 to 15 and the subs, they're there now. This is the kind of team Brian Cody wants, and it seems to. And I don't think this was the team he had at the start of the Leinster round robin. We're seeing a development into kind of a proper Kilkenny team as the season goes on.
Yeah, it's definitely an evolving team. And I thought Liam Sheedy, I met him Sunday morning, I thought he got a great statement about Kilkenny. He said, they always show up with their overalls on. Great analogy as regards. They always show up ready to work, ready to dig it out. Some days it doesn't go from, but they will fight tooth and nail for it. And that's kind of the hallmark of it. And like you look at certain players, you look at Mikey Butler, you look at what Adrian Mullen does now from a work rate point of view.
Paddy Deegan, like he's just molded these lads. You know, Tommy Welch for a while was kind of in and out of the team. Now he's just a really good cornerback, very quiet, very unassuming, but goes around his business really good. The development of Hugh Lawler, what he's done with Richie Reid, like he's a sub goalie 5 years ago, and now he's centre back captain and one of the most pivotal lads on our team, and so important to us. So that's what Brian does, and sometimes it takes a while. You know, and even the tune he's getting out, Wally coming off the bench, Porrick started. I thought he did reasonably well. Did a lot of work. But yeah, I suppose we probably didn't really hear so much of the outside noise because we couldn't really see or hear anything through the long grass that we were in with.
Yeah, TJ got that in there, didn't he? He enjoyed that. Christy, we Owen Ryan wrote a piece for our website at the weekend, just kind of about Cody's kind of faith in youth, and we were talking about it on the podcast here about how, you know, it's hard to predict the Kilkenny 15, and Cody addressed that. I can't imagine he was listening to the podcast or read an article. I don't think he does any of that, but he did say he kind of gave the impression he's aware that people are kind of puzzled by the fact that he doesn't have a settled 15 as he did in the past. And he said, I don't want a settled team. He said, I want a level squad. I want a squad where 3 or 4 guys can come out for 3 or 4 other guys, depending on how they go in training. And we know he always placed such an onus on training, gave it such value. But now it seems to be a case where things are fluctuating, and maybe guys' form is up and down in a way it wasn't before, but not much bothers Brian Cody. This doesn't seem to bother him. And as Jackie says, Pádraig Walsh did reasonably well. The evidence of the last year and a half, 2 years is reasonably well for Pádraig Walsh isn't enough to guarantee that he'll be starting in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, look, I suppose the great line from Cody, Mikey, is like, it's not a settled team, it's a settled spirit. Like, and I think in fairness, like, that there were, I obviously don't know as much as maybe what people down there would know. Like, but there was talk, like, after the Salt Hill game, that there was a bit of a rift, like, that the Ballyhale boys weren't maybe as happy with Cody as, the whole Henry dynamic, like, and maybe some stuff that went on, like. And
had you heard about this, Jackie?
I did. I had. Look, I didn't know whether to believe some of it, any of it, all of it. But it seems like it's kind of galvanised Kilkenny since then, really. I know against Wexford they didn't produce a great performance, but it definitely has. And I think what Christy touched on, the influence of this Ballyhale contingent, this Kilkenny team in key pivotal positions. And that was a question going into the game. Who would step up with TJ? In the Leinster final, it was TJ from frees, and he won so much ball, Adrian Mullen from midfield. But you had Owen Cody yesterday. You had you had Wally coming off the bench. You did so many lads working. So I think that has kind of really put together.
Yeah, we have you back, Christy.
Apologies.
That's quite all right. This happens. This is bedroom podcasting at its finest. Yeah, Jackie said, he'd heard that as well. This kind of idea of the Ballyhale rift. If there was one, the performances of those lads on Saturday would suggest that it's been well and truly healed.
That was it, Mikey. Like, if you just look at the 4 lads, like, it was, like Richie Reid, like as Jackie said, like, to go from a sub keeper to, like, like, what, 24 possessions on Saturday, 14 in the first half, like, brilliant sweeping job, distribution, like, radically improved from what it was maybe earlier in the year. Like, TJ is like, just, he has to, like, be in the conversation as one of the greatest of all time. Like,
yeah.
And, like, like in the first half in particular, like, 4 assists, got a score, like, I did 1 possession maybe for 30 minutes in the second half. He was involved in winning a free, wasn't directly involved, was kind of just scavenging around the break, and then 2 points from 3 shots later on. And he's free taking, like, I think, like, TJ's free taking. If you look at the stats, Mikey, in terms of the last 2 games, right now, he scored 19, or is it 19 from 20 shots, right? But I think that actually could be 20 from 20, because the one he missed in the Leinster final, it went to Hawkeye, and it said that Hawkeye data was unavailable. So if data was available, like, it was probably a score, like that's 100%.
TJ was too good for Hawkeye.
Exactly, like, but like, to have a guy like that, like, and the other thing as well is, like, the Corkers won't want to hear this, like, this. I don't know if Pat Horgan is going to come back next year. He has the scoring record now, but TJ comes back next year, he'll have that in the bag by early rounds in Leinster. Like, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but he's probably that shade down. I'd say he's probably within 20 points of Hoggy, right? So I don't know if Hoggy's going to go back next year.
You get that in the final, Christy.
He'll have it even by the end of 2022. So, like, he's one of the all-time greats. But to go back to finish off the question about the Ballyhale lads, like Mullen, 5 points from 6 shots. Like Owen Cody, like, an unbelievable score. Probably the score of the weekend in the first half. Set the tone early. Got 3 points in the first half. Could have had a goal. Brilliant save from Ava Quilligan. So yeah, but to go back even to prior to that question, Mikey, like, like, you looked at during the league, like Pádraig Walsh and Walter Walsh were 2, like, they really were, like, unbelievable stuff during some of the league games, like, especially that night against Dublin. And like Pádraig, I suppose at this stage, you could see it on Saturday. Obviously a lot of miles on the clock, maybe ran out of gas a bit, like, but still ran into the ground, worked hard. And then this is to go back to what we said about Cody, to settle spirits, not to settle team. And like, look at the competition that's going to be there now for places for the final, like, and Kilkenny are exactly where Cody wants them to be, exactly where they always were in the past. Role that we can say all we want to mention that, not to mention that Kilkenny were brilliant on Saturday. Like their movement, I thought the movement was the best it's been all year by considerable distance. They were so slick. Their conversion rate in the first half was off the charts. It was like 82% or something compared to Clare 28. Which Clare never got their shooting range at all. Like, but Kilkenny were they were just so good, and we heard those stories like that they were so happy with how their training had gone. They were even almost a bit taken aback with how well they were playing and training, how well it had gone. So yeah, they're in a great position, lads, and said they're coming up now against the Standard, like, but Kilkenny deep down in their head, they're still the Standard.
They're the standard. Yeah. Kilkenny are like dead taxes in Kilkenny hurling. I mean, their sheer bloody mindedness and belligerence, Mikey, would nearly have you rooting for them at this stage. Nearly, Jackie, right? We won't go that far, right? But I mean, something that it was very evident again on Saturday night. And I know, look, maybe it's just a given, but what I always love about them is the amount of hooks, blocks, flicks. I mean, how often and always these skills are almost taken as a given, but it's the way they execute the skills. Like if they get a hook in, they're getting the hook in absolutely perfect. You're not getting the strike away. Some lads will get a hook in, the hurley will be going in maybe at an angle. So even the fella who's looking to strike the ball will get a dribble of a strike. Well, if Kilkenny hook you, it's fresh air. The way they can get hurley in to flick the ball away, the accuracy with which they're able to do it. I'd say they're a nightmare to play against. Like, unless you have a 2 meter radius around you, you're not getting a clean strike away because they will get a hand in, a flick in. It's just, I think it's a mastery of basic skills that it's the hallmark of every single Kilkenny team. The way they're coached, it's just so consistent. So you're always going to get that from them. Then you marry that with, as we mentioned, spirit, but the spirit kind of manifests itself really in just, they never give up. They will always perform. When is the last time a Kilkenny team flopped on a big day? I don't remember. I think you could probably make an argument maybe with the 2019 final second half, but they were down to 14 players. They will always perform on the big day. They're unbelievable. And I think this is going to be a real All-Ireland final now, a real one.
Yeah. It's looking that way. It's very well set up. I don't think, Jackie, we have to talk a little bit about Clare, because as good as Kilkenny were, and we can give Kilkenny an awful lot of credit for stopping Clare from playing, this was like we're talking about a team flopping on the big day. This was, unfortunately for Clare, a flop, and perhaps sort of warning signs against Wexford. And if Wexford had maybe another couple of players on the bench, they would have won out, or if Rory O'Connor hadn't got injured. So Clare kind of, perhaps, the Munster final was kind of their All-Ireland final, so to speak, and they didn't look the same team since, have they?
No, and it's important because we are talking about Kilkenny. You do have to take in context of the challenge that was put up to. Yes, they were excellent, but Clare just weren't at the picture for whatever reason the weekend. You would look, was there so much energy put into the Munster final and extra time that took it out of them? Because the one team that are out there that relies so much on energy, they're very much a running team from deep, and that requires huge amount of energy. So the physical and the mental maybe hangover from the Munster probably carried into Wexford, and we all thought that was gone, but I'd say it was still very relevant for the weekend. And then the John Conlon thing. Look, when you lose a key player, like Garrod McInerney for Galway, I'd say that decision was made pretty soon that, look, Garrod is gone, Joe Cooney's going back, Paul McMahon is going centre back, and Jason Flynn, and you can start working around that, familiarise yourself with the game plan, the matchups and all that. I believe he got an injection up in Croke Park, and the decision was made at the 11th hour, because looking from the footage, it looked like he was trying it out on the pitch and it just wasn't a runner. So it was very late. And of course, you do roll the dice with John Conlon. He's too key to kind of rule him out. You give him every opportunity. And then there's a selection of Paddy Fitzpatrick, which was a real left of centre one, a guy we haven't seen, I don't know, in a year or so. Especially when you had options in Keane Nolan, maybe Aaron Fitzgerald, you could reshuffle the pack. So taking all those into consideration, I just think that's what was really into this really flat, lethargic Clare performance that was no way mirrored of their form in the round robin. I mean, simple basic skills that were just executed so poorly. First touch, hand pass going straight, shot selection, the wide count. The wides are, I thought the wides were terrible, but these short balls dropping into Owen Murphy 5 or 6 times, that just drains the life out. You could hear the groans in the crowd. And you're handing Kilkenny back the possession. And one thing I will say about Kilkenny is they now have the distribution nailed. And when I say nailed, the balance between going long and going short. I could only really think of 2 occasions across 70 odd minutes where they made the wrong choice, and unfortunately it was for Paddy Deegan twice where he just made 2 solo runs down a rabbit hole and just got turned over. So when you're giving a team so efficient and so slick with the ball back so many times, like, and not getting Anton forward, I just think that really killed them as well. And unfortunately for Clare, it's been a really good year, but it'll just leave a really bad ending. Whatever about over having a cut off Kilkenny and up short, but it just asks the really big question: what happened, Clare, when they came to Croke Park? And I think it's a combination of all.
Yeah, Christy, it was a bad ending to the year for Clare folk, but I guess, I don't know. I know a lot of people after the Munster campaign, a lot of Clare folk were saying maybe they were talking about long grass as well, but expectations outside Clare weren't that high at the start of this year. So you'd have to think with another 12 months under his belt managing this team, like Brian Lohan has to see a lot of potential here. The age profile is good. So it's a bad end to a year, but overall the year can't be considered a bust by any means, can it?
Absolutely not, Mikey. Like it was just a shame, like, that the year was ended the way it did, because like it was a brilliant year in so many ways. Like some of the games, like that day, and obviously the Munster final was off the chart stuff. But even that day in Ennis, for the Limerick round robin game was real throwback stuff. Just a real unbelievable match, savage stuff. And I think Limerick found out that day, like, that they couldn't bully or physically overpower Clare like they could so many other teams. Like, look at brilliant win against Tip the first day. Probably should have beaten Cork by 10 points. Really, only beat them by handful for a finish. But like, just so many positives. Like, and I suppose the big thing as well for Clare, Mikey, that probably has been missed a lot is like Clare haven't won a Munster under 20 or 21 games since 2015. Now they were very unlucky this year. Should have beaten Limerick in the first game. Threw it away really. Had 6 goal chances, didn't take any. Caught by a late Colony goal. Went along a week later, played Cork down 6-1 Bridge. Just the confidence wasn't really there to drive on like they had Cork, where they wanted them that day. Just didn't get over the line. I think Clare had a team good enough to rattle that under 20, but like it's still another year without a win. Like, but you look at, Patrick Crotty was really good during the league. He's off that team. Jamie is still under 20. Like, Mark Rogers, a brilliant player. Struggling with injury, came back, played well when he came on the last day. Robin Mounsey under 20 last year on a team that was well beaten. He played well in Munster, got 5 points.
Aidan McCarthy.
And Aidan McCarthy, like, brilliant young player who broke his ankle at Christmas time and was a massive loss. Like, you look at a lot of these Clare lads like they're Jim Ryan, all these guys are coming off Clare teams, underage teams, who are like really well beaten. Like, and that's the key. Like, okay, Clare haven't had that underage success. Really good minor team this year. There's going to be a lot of players off that. But, like, they're still able to find 1 or 2 every year, which is, the real secret. And massive credit due to Brian Nolan and his management. Like, they're able to just bring these guys through. And, I suppose that's the one thing that they have the physical profile to match up. Like you saw with Galway yesterday, like they do have it. Kilkenny have it. I think it's proven out to beat Limerick. You have to be able to physically take them on. You have to be able to just match up, go into the trenches with them. They're able to do that. And obviously they have Tony, like, he's just an unbelievable player. It just was one of those days for him on Saturday. Then he 3 possessions, just couldn't get into the game. Free taking was a bit off. And like Tony is just, that doesn't detract from who he is and what he is. He's just we're so lucky to have him.
Yeah.
It was kind of Tony's like display nearly just summed it up. Like, just no matter what he tried, they couldn't get away from Mikey Butler. There was a few times as well, if you look at it again, where long balls were breaking and he was just the wrong side of the break, or the ball might have got behind him. Mikey Butler was quick to react, and it was a defender's ball. And just so much of that stuff. Like, but the biggest thing I suppose for Clare really was on Saturday, Mikey, was their use of possession was poor. Like in the first half, like they turned over the ball 25 times. Like I think in the second half, and in the whole Wexford game, that was where they only turned it over 27 times. Like Kilkenny got 110 off turnovers in the first half. And that was really, I suppose there was an incident later on where David Fitzgerald had a chance, really good save by Owen Murphy. Ball came straight back up the pitch, TJ had it over the bar. Like Clare had 4 goal chances in the game. Kilkenny got 1-2 off those turnovers. Like even Kilkenny's first goal from Mossy Keown, Peter Duggan had a chance below within 30 seconds. It was in the net at the other end. And yeah, look, it just like so many Clare that's just blown out of us. Just couldn't get into the game. Couldn't get the Clare forwards in Irish Shannon, 23 possessions in the first half. Just couldn't get their hands on the ball. And look, a lot of that is down to Kilkenny as well and the heat they put on. But look, I think that just the bottom line, lads, and it's not an excuse. The Clare boys won't make excuses, but physically and mentally, they just never seem to recover from the Munster final. Like, I think it's just their numbers, their running numbers, all of that stuff, I think, was through the roof. Took them so long to recover after the Munster final before the Wexford game. Because they struggled to get right for Wexford, got right. There was maybe a lot of optimism and confidence. We'll go back to Croke Park now. We won the Wexford game in the ideal manner, dug it out after not playing well. But look at it, you go back to the Leinster final. Like, I know it was a tough game, like, but there's no way. Like, when you look at what the energy Kilkenny expended that day compared to what Clare expended the following day, like going to 90 minutes, and that's not taken from Kilkenny's performance in the Leinster final. Like they dug it out as well. They physically manned up. Like, but you could have said, like, with that Leinster final, Kilkenny could have trained Tuesday night. They obviously had an extra day. Like, I don't know, when Clare trained, probably weren't able to train to the following weekend if they're ready to do anything.
Yeah.
After that 90-minute epic. Yeah. So all of this stuff feeds in, and you just don't know that these guys are amateur players. Like, what mentally, what did that Limerick game take out of them? So just a shame.
Yeah. I think the glass definitely half full though, Christy. I mean, like they weren't many people's favourites to even get out of Munster before the Munster round robin began. They finished top of the group. Played out an epic Munster final, went toe-to-toe with Limerick on three occasions across league and championship, and were more than a match on each occasion. And they've, as Christy pointed out, they've found a couple of players. They're getting the ones and twos. The panel looks like there's a really good unity of spirit and unity of purpose as well. Just hope that Brian Lohan stays on. I know he wasn't well after the game actually on Saturday. I think he had a bit of an issue with his back.
So that's why he didn't do any media.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he was in a lot of pain.
He's been struggling with it, Rory, I think, for the last
while. He was in a lot of pain, poor fella. But I think there's a change, I think, in terms of the administration down there, which will probably bring a freshness, no doubt. Yeah. The footballers have had a good year. I think there's loads of really good positivity around Clare GA right across the board. It's just about building on it now and taking that on into 2023.
Just a final word on this game, then I think has to go to you, Jackie. I would imagine Tony Kelly on the bus heading down the M7 would have been looking out the window to make sure that Mikey Butler wasn't clinging on to the side of it. As one of his predecessors, just a word on it, because it was an astonishing display of like selfless defending.
It was unbelievable, and the thing I really liked about him, like when I marked, Mark Corbett and a few other lads. When we had the ball, I had no interest in being available for that, and I just stayed with Lar. Mikey was looking for the ball and was up in the far right-hand corner one stage and had a for a point that wasn't really too far off and going over. So he's happy, he's comfortable in those positions. He'll move, he'll look for the ball again. So it's some army to have, that you have Mikey Butler there, who just a kind of a shutdown cornerback. Like, it was Cotton Mannion, it was Tony Kelly. And look, you have to take that in context. Like, this is a really good cornerback. Everyone's like, Tony, it just wasn't his day. Wasn't a day for a lot of it, because Mikey Butler just didn't allow it to be his day. So, and it's great. And I do think that Mikey Butler could be picking up maybe a Peter Casey or maybe Seamus. I do think they'll roll the dice with Hugh Lawler on Galan. And there's going to be some serious matchups there. But his discipline to sacrifice his game and sacrifice the ball when he was in that defensive mindset was outstanding. And there were some really good examples of high balls going in, because Tony Kelly is brilliant at hitting the drop zone and picking that break and over the bar. And Mikey because it's very hard to watch the ball and watch where the run is going. And I just thought he did it marvelously and was just so good. For a guy in his first year, it's really a marvelous performance. Again, another one. And throughout the league, he did it on Desi Hutchinson and various other top forwards. So anytime he goes out, he just seems to be able to get the best of himself and take out the top forwards of the game.
Yeah, it's just some lads are just suited to eating raw meat and living in a tent in Nolan Park for a weekend. It just just brings them on. Finally, before we go, Rory, Cork obviously on the lookout for new manager. Kieran Kingston decided to turn down the offer of another year. Where do they go now?
So it's a big question, and it's a really important appointment. Obviously, there is talent coming through, and Cork have had some good successes over the last few years at under 20 and minor level, and there's plenty of players coming through for whoever ends up in the hot seat. So that's why I think it is important. There's a couple of obvious candidates already in train, which would be the likes of Pat Mulcahy and Noel Furlong, who are in with Kieran this year and have a track record, we'll say, already at the underage level. But I think there will be a few others that will be mentioned. It won't be outside, that you can rule that.
Heaven forbid.
Yeah, that won't be happening. Yeah,
I don't know about that, Rory. I don't know about that. Like to me, like the one guy you left out there, the obvious choice is Pat Ryan. Pat Ryan is absolutely the man.
Yeah. Well, no, I was actually going to mention no, but I don't like. I mean, Pat would have. I think Pat was nearly in for the Waterford job at one stage, and I don't know, was he unwell for a while then, or look, I think he'd be an outstanding choice, an outstanding candidate. I think Ben O'Connor will probably, his name might feature. He obviously won a county title with Middleton last year, so there are enough candidates in and around Cork. What I would hope, though, is that they'd make the decision and get the appointment done quickly, because you do have to remember, like, see, you've a year. Like, if you can get somebody in, he's got a year to plan, like effectively 10 months before you're playing serious intercounty hurling again. So that's a long time. So if you get the guy in quickly, you can do a lot in a year.
Yeah, Christy, obviously you were in with Kieran there for a couple of years in a coaching capacity. It's seen from the outside, it's seen from everywhere. It's a huge job. It's one of the biggest jobs in hurling, but at the same time, there hasn't been a lot of success. And with every year that there isn't success, the pressure ratchets up, and people coming into this job will neither expect nor be given a hell of a lot of time to kind of find their feet, will they?
Yeah, no, very true. Like it's a massive job. Like it's it's only when you get on there you actually realise like the scale of the county and the talent they have, the potential they have, and look at they have underachieved big time. I think it's important to acknowledge Kieran. Like he was so good to me down there. Really appreciating asking me to get on board. And even I think at times people realise or don't realise what goes into it. And it's only when you're actually in the setup that you realise how much of a commitment it is. Like I remember we were on the train home after the Limerick game last year, which was obviously a disaster. He was sitting beside me, like, and he said that, he hadn't time between trying to sort out stuff in the dressing room and the media, and he said he didn't have time to have a shower, didn't have time to eat. Been up early that morning. Obviously, we had food beforehand, but and he said, I think it was like he said to me that it was 50 hours a week he put in outside of his own job. Like that's just, and then you get an absolute whipping from Limerick, and you're the worst in the world, and you're all useless, and you haven't a clue, like, and he takes it, and he went back again this year and put his neck on the block, and very, very popular with the players. Absolutely loves Cork hurling, passionate hurling man, passionate Cork man. And I think that's the most important thing, Mikey, I'd like to get across. Like, is it okay? There's only one man can win, one person can win the All-Ireland, one manager can win the All-Ireland into the year. Does that mean Brian Lohan has done a bad job? Does that mean Henry Shefflin has done a poor job? Like, okay, Cork would obviously have should have done better, or they like to, would feel they should be doing a lot better. I think it's important that you acknowledge like what the human side of it at the end of all this, like that, look at what Kieran has done for Cork, look at what he's put into it. Okay, somebody mightn't agree with what he's done or how he's gone about it or the results of some of the players he's picked, but like, it's so easy to forget, what these people put into it and how much of a toll it takes on their lives. And the abuse and the criticism that comes with it, you sign up for it. I think it's only probably when you're in it, Mikey, that you realise, geez, this is off the chart stuff. Like, this is all amateur stuff. Like, there's nobody on a contract here with Real Madrid. Like, like Kieran isn't going to get a payoff like Mourinho.
There certainly is. There certainly isn't in Cork anyway, Christy. That's for sure.
Christy, you don't seem so sure that they wouldn't go outside, do you? Do you think there's a possibility?
No, I think, look at this. There's a couple of things for me on this, Mikey. Right? Like, okay, Rory mentioned the lads there, Ben O'Connor, Noel Furlong, Pat Mackay, all great fellas. To me, like Pat Ryan, Pat, he's had issues with his health, but Pat is an incredible guy. Brilliant fella. So knowledgeable. As it's huge success for these under 20s. He's created a huge culture there. Like if Pat wants the job, I don't know if he wants it. I've been talking to him lately. If he wants the job, to me, he's the only candidate.
Yeah.
Now, if he doesn't want it, like, do they go to do Cork say, I know that they invited applications from outside the county for the football job last year. The hurling thing is different, Rory, in that there's a much more deeper emotional connection. Would they go outside?
No, they won't. No.
I don't know though. Like, is it time now to say, right? Look at that. It's another year out in All-Ireland. If Pat Ryan isn't going to take the job, do we go for a guy who's done it before? Liam Sheedy and Micheál, guys that have proven track record that have could come in with a clean slate. To me, like a lot of the time, it's kind of Cork is white for an outsider, and like I would have maybe even felt it myself at times. Like it does give you a strength as a coach. Like you don't know any of these players. You don't know.
That
agenda,
is true.
You know historical connection. Like Liam Sheedy, obviously Liam Sheedy or Micheál Dunn. If they look at the status and the street cred they have, like guys that have done it.
Well,
I'm not saying anybody would go for the job, Rory, but like,
I wouldn't say
it's worth considering.
Yeah, no, it is worth considering, but I wouldn't see it happening. I wouldn't ever see it happening in hurling. That's not to say that I'm against it, but I just don't see it happening in hurling. I think it would absolutely be something that I'd encourage, definitely in a football sense, and I could see it happening there. But then from a hurling point of view,
but why wouldn't you see it happening?
I'm not so sure if the clubs would accept it. I think you'd actually have a problem in getting that ratified at the county board level. I really do.
Christy, when his Cork lilt comes in, he's being very serious.
Yeah, I think the clubs would be quite annoyed if there's a lot of old-fashioned people still turning up to these county board meetings. There's a lot of traditional heads, whether the Glen, the Bars, the Rockies. I'm not so sure that particular person is going to accept somebody coming in from the outside in a hurling context. I just don't see it. But I mean, look, who knows? I could be wrong.
Jackie, it wouldn't.
Is that the tradition, lads, that they need to look at? Like, if Pat Ryan isn't going to take the job, is that like, they're gone, what now, so 5 winning All-Ireland? Is it time to just look at something different?
Yeah, possibly. Jackie, you come from a county where, well, you don't need a manager, you have one in perpetuity. But it probably wouldn't be countenanced in Kilkenny either. It wouldn't be considered an outside manager, would it?
No, it wouldn't. It'd be very much kind of like what Rory's saying. It'd be circle the wagons, keep it in-house. And look, we've talent within the county and we've a good few who've, dipped their toe into management already. So,
You're export managers. A Kilkenny man could go in and manage Cork. That'd be no better, will it, Rory?
Well, it's a short spin.
There's the suggestion. You can raise that at next county board meeting.
We'll send out a spire so they can feed back the info.
We'd end up in the Joe McDonough within 2 years.
All right. I think we'll leave it at that. Myself and Rory will be back on Thursday, obviously, to preview the All-Ireland football semi-finals. So say thank you to Jackie and to Christy, and we will chat to you then. Good luck.
From this, how much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar.